Hey guys, it's Will. It's Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society. Welcome back to the channel. I'm skipping my whole preamble. I'm skipping thanking the patrons, and I'm skipping trying to plead you to subscribe and comment. I want to talk about this movie because this movie is The Postman Fights Back. You do not know how close I came to recording literally a one-sentence review of this movie, and that one sentence was going to be, this movie is fucking awesome. Like, I'm gonna go into my whole thing, why I explain why I like it so much and why I think it's such a good movie, but you don't have to watch it. The bottom line about this movie is this movie fucking rules, and you should see it immediately. This is the 88 Films release. It came out 28th of August in the UK, 29th of August for the US for Region A. So it's a Region A and a Region B release. This movie was originally released on June 4th of 1982. It was directed by Ronnie Yu, who did like The Bride with White Hair, who did Legacy of Rage, who did The Bride of Chucky, who did Freddy vs. Jason. Hell yes, that Ronnie Yu. This movie actually had 5 screenwriters. I was reading about it, I was like, wait, what? One of them was Ronnie Yu. A couple of them had like basically no other credits. There's one named Chan Q Ying who wrote The Bund, the TV show. I think the TV show with Chow Yun Fat, which was insanely famous, and then In the Line of Duty Part 3, and then Chu Kong Chen, and I'm struggling to read my own handwriting, so if those names are incorrect, I do apologize profusely. I wrote this all down very quickly because I was really excited to make this video. Who had an amazing career, who wrote Boat People, Nomad, Rouge, An Amorous Woman of the Tang Dynasty, Intimate Confessions of a Chinese Courtesan, Center Stage. It's like a lot of like kind of like art house drama, prestige type of films out of Hong Kong. The movie stars Len Kar-yan, who is Beardy, who is the main character in the film, even though he is not the main dude. On the artwork, the main dude on the artwork, you may recognize as Chow Yun freaking Fat, aka Mark Gore, aka Big Brother to All. Well, really, I guess that would be Sammo Hung, but you know, he is like the most amazing of amazings. And Sherry Chung is in this movie, who her name is probably, I say Sherry, like it's like a combination of the English word cherry and the French chérie, like mon chéri. I don't know. I just look at it and I'm like, I'm gonna make up my own pronunciation of this name, because I've actually asked some people, and the people I've asked, including, if I'm not mistaken, Frank Zheng, he wasn't 100% sure exactly how she intended it to be pronounced. Simon Yoon Jr., whose name is Yoon Yat Cho, is in this movie, who is in the Line of Duty 4, and he's of the Yoon clan, of like Yoon Woo Ping and stuff like that. Kook Jong-suk is in this film. Fan Mei Sheng, who, like, if you don't know who that guy is in literally everything, including One-Armed Swordsman. He's in Killer Clans. He's in Brave Archer, Flying Guillotine 2. And then he's in The Story of Ricky, which I think a lot of people who watch this channel will have seen. He's in Project Day 2, Millionaire Express, Rich and Famous. He's amazing. And he's on the cover. He's this guy here. You'll definitely, he plays an explosives expert in this movie. This is Eddie Ko, by the way, who's in Hero Shed No Tears, the John Woo film. So amazing cast in this movie. I'm just like so excited about, like, what do I say? Let me just get into my thoughts on it. I'm getting into my thoughts on it. Let's do it. So let me give you a basic idea of the plot. The Beardy character is this guy here. He's like a mailman, post office guy, but it's like before like the era where there's like a centralized post office. This is after the fall of the Qing dynasty, early 20th century China. It's a period of great turmoil. So there's like bandits everywhere and like warlords and like, you know, there's the Republic, and this is, you know, there's a lot of stuff politically going on. And there's this setup in the beginning of the film with like a little intro that explains the historical social situation in China at the time. And so you have this mailman, really, whose job is to, like, you know, collect the post. And he talks about going to Shanghai and stuff like that. So I don't know if he goes to like the city and collects the post or what he does. But then he goes to this like really small town and he delivers the mail to everybody. And he gets offered a job by the Eddie Ko character, who's this kind of dangerous looking dude about town, who is involved in violence and various other shady kind of things. He gets an offer for him to deliver these cases to this warlord dude, and it's for a lot of money. And he's kind of looking at the fact that like a lot of the people around him are living in poverty. He gets paid by the villagers to bring the mail, and they don't have enough money to pay him anymore, right? So he's like not really sure what he's going to do with his life. And after some persuasion, he's not sure he wants to do it at first. And the Simon Yoon Jr. character, I know I shouldn't be calling him that. I know, I know I should be calling him Yoon Chor, but Yoon Cho, excuse me. But the Simon Yoon Jr. character is he's trying to persuade him to take the job because he's going to be working with this guy. So it's like, oh, we can work together because we're like, but they know each other. They're like kind of buddies. And so eventually he takes the job. And so it's Beardy and Simon Yoon Jr. And then they get the explosive expert guy. And who's the guy here I showed you on the cover? Amazing artwork, by the way, Sean Longmore. And this is one of the slim case releases like 88 has been doing recently. And like Taxi Hunter was like this, Magic Cop was like this. You get the fold out poster and then which has both of the artworks on it. And then the reversible artwork is pretty freaking awesome too. So they go and get the explosives expert dude. And then Chow Yun-fat's character, who is really, really interesting character. Really interested to see Chow Yun-fat playing this character because he's kind of an ambiguous character. Like he's a gambler and he's kind of deceitful and he's a cheater and he's a liar. And there's rumors that he's like killed people before and he has like this crazy weapon that he uses that's like inside of his sleeve and shoots like dart arrow type of things out of it. You don't know it's there. And then all of a sudden he's like shooting out at you. And like, you don't really ever kind of know who he is. He dresses like a scholar. Like people describe that like, oh, the guy who dresses like a scholar, but he's like beating the crap out of all these people. This is a very interesting character. So they all get teamed up together. And then the Sherry Chung character is this like poor young woman from the village and her mom just died and she just wants to get out. And actually her goal, not really a spoiler here, but her father sold her sister because they were so poor. He sold her younger sister and she wants to go and get her sister back. So she's like, can I come with you? And they're like, nah, you probably shouldn't. It's going to be really dangerous to go through this dangerous territory. And she ends up following them anyway. And there's not really anything they can do about it. And then on the road, they meet another woman who's I apologize. I just want to make sure I get the name correct. Kook Jong-suk, that character, they meet her on the road. They end up rescuing her from this kind of bandit situation. So she becomes part of their gang too. So it's a really interesting film because it really feels like two movies happening at the same time. There's this very like old school, batshit insane period martial arts, like duel to the death, Shaw Brothers type insanity going on. There's like bandits on ice skates in this movie. I shit you not. There's a freaking ninja who shoots fire at people. Like, and it disappears in smoke and comes flying out of the snow and all this insane shit. And there's like revolutionaries who are like upending their mission. And there's these like mountain bandits on horseback who are shooting fire at people. And like, it has this totally bananas, like over the top insane Shaw type of thing. And yet at the same time, there's this really amazing commentary track on here you have to listen to. It's Frank Jang and freaking Ronnie Yu, the director. And Ronnie Yu talks about how he loved Westerns and like Yoon Woo Ping came to him and was like, I liked his first two films and was like, are you interested in doing a period martial arts film? And he's like, yeah. And he wanted to do like this really gritty, like Western influenced, like Western as in cowboy movies, not just films from the West, like brutal, kind of like serious, violent, nasty, gritty movie. And Golden Harvest is like, So they, as Ronnie Yu says in the commentary, they kind of compromised and they met in the middle. So it has this insane old school martial arts thing going on, but it is also at the same time this very gritty movie that feels influenced by Westerns and by like World War II movies and like war adventure types of films and like Lawrence of Arabia type of films. And like I see some film noir influence in here. I see influence from Chambara, like samurai films, like Samurai Assassin. I'm not saying there's direct influence from Samurai Assassin, but if you've seen Samurai Assassin, this movie has these really great scenes with this very deliberate pacing that is really invested in like character, mood, tone. There's amazing weather in this movie. They as Ronnie Yu says in the commentary, they filmed it over almost like an entire year. Like it was like freezing in Korea in the snow and like rain and just bad weather. And like there's these amazing scenes where you can see people's breath and they're standing in the rain. And it's just so lived in, and it takes so much time to give you world and character. And there's this really great scene. It's like this tiny little scene that would seem insignificant really, but it's when the Beardy character is first talking to the Simon Yoon Jr. character, and they're in the Beardy character's room where he's like on his way to the village to deliver the mail, and he's staying in this little room. And the Beardy character is just like breaking up sticks and putting them in the fire. And the Simon Yoon Jr. character is kind of like futzing with like stuff in the Beardy character is like, he's got these packages with him because he's delivering mail, obviously. And the Simon Yoon Jr. character is kind of like futzing with stuff that's in the packages. And the scene just kind of moves at the pace of people talking. And it really feels like two friends who've known each other a long time, who maybe don't like 100% trust one another, but they're kind of like pals and stuff like that. And they're just like in a room talking. And then these guys bust in and like a fight breaks out and there's like punching and blood and people are being thrown through windows. And in that scene, you really see like these two parts of the movie coming together. But it's like the characters in this movie are fantastic and the performances are incredible. And one of the things I loved about the characters is that there are a few exceptions to this, but at least three of the characters in this film have these really deep, dark secrets that come out over the course of the movie as they get to know one another. And like some characters learn secrets about others, but some don't, and everything just kind of bubbles up and the narrative takes like these kind of turns based on the direction that the characters are taking it in with the revealing of their secrets, their motivations, their desires and stuff like that. But then you also have like a really, really good kind of sequence based, almost like American Hollywood style screenplay structure where you have like three very solid acts and you have, you know, like the inciting incident and you have like a solid midpoint. You have a really solid end to act 2 and break into act 3. You get like the act 3 twist, like all these little like Hollywood style plot points are in there. And then you have that batshit martial arts, like amazing Shaw thing that's so appealing and awesome. And I'm going to check my notes because I want to make sure I really nail, like I see some 70s Hollywood influence here too, because you do sometimes get that thing with like with William Friedkin, right? Who passed away recently. Fantastic filmmaker, right? William Friedkin was really good with character, really good with pacing, mood, story, like a lot of things that I think previous to that 70s American generation, other than when you look at like film noir, old Hollywood, stuff like that. But like in the 60s, really, when those directors were coming up, 60s into the 70s, they were looking at like Truffaut and filmmakers like that in Europe and Fellini and whoever, who were making these really great, grounded, character-driven dramas, dramedies, like those types of movies. And they were marrying that to the American genre film. So William Friedkin is really taking from like European drama, and then also he's like making The Exorcist and he's making The French Connection, Sorcerer, and these like American genre films and sticking these two things together. And I see a lot of that in this movie, of taking these two styles and these two influences and kind of marrying them. And it just works like gangbusters. Like if you love fight scenes, there are crazy fucking fight. Like I said, there's bandits on fucking ice skates with spears in this movie. There's this whole insane ice sequence. Amazing fact that I don't want to give away too much from the commentary with Ronnie Yu and Frank Jen, because I really, really, really want you to listen to it. But there's this amazing story that Ronnie Yu tells where Frank is like, how dangerous was it shooting on this frozen lake where you guys shot? And like you had the crew on there, the actors, it must have been really heavy. And there's like dynamite on the ice. Like because there's an explosive expert in this movie, there are fucking explosions in this movie. And Ronnie Yu actually says that the Korean military just blew shit up for them. Like they were filming in Korea and they're like, okay, here's the scene. The Korean military is like, cool, we'll blow all that shit up. Just film it. It'll be awesome. It reminds me of when they shot Heroes Shed No Tears, and supposedly the story is in Thailand. You could fire real guns in a movie in Thailand. So they're actually firing machine guns and shit, like real bullets. Anyway, to get back to what I was talking about, Frank asks Ronnie Yu, like, oh, how did you know, like, you were going to be able to film on the ice? It wasn't going to break. And Ronnie Yu was like, oh, there was like a guy in that area who was like the ice guy, and we went to him, and he was like, yeah, it should be fine. And he actually talks about Hollywood too, and like, you know, insurance in Hollywood and how you can film stuff in Hollywood and how you can't, and like differences between filming in Hong Kong and Hollywood. So I know I'm mixing up like talking about the release and the movie, but that commentary really informs a lot about how you watch the movie. It's really cool. I mentioned that scene. I really like music in this movie. Is freaking amazing. There's a couple scenes, like there's a scene where they go to a French embassy in this movie, and the music that's playing in that scene really reminds me of Kurosawa music. And obviously, like when you have any movie where like a team gets together to go on a mission, there's gonna be some Kurosawa influence because there's freaking Seven Samurai, right? But then I see Hidden Fortress influence in this movie too, like the way they're going through this kind of dangerous territory and there's like people attacking them from everywhere and they don't really know where they're gonna be safe, and it's like this small group of people, and so I definitely see some hidden. This is a much more serious, although in a way it's not, because it has a fucking ninja in it who shoots fire at people. But in some respects, it's a much more serious movie. But like, if you just want to see a movie with action in it, like there's explosions, machine guns, a ninja, there's the ice bandits, there's the mountain bandits on horseback. Like there's a lot of fighting, a lot of ass kicking in this movie. But if you're into more serious films like dramas, art house films, I mean, obviously one of the screenwriters on this film wrote Anne Hui movies, Patrick Tam movies, Stanley Kwan movies. Like you're gonna get that heavy character drama. It's like both of these things at once, and it's an awesome example of both of them. just and that, like the grittiness of the movie, even like down to the where they're shooting it, like the locations and like like the rooms that they're in are like dirty and like the walls are made out of mud and there's not this kind of Shaw Brothers thing where it's like these pristine sets where it takes place in another, which is not to knock. Obviously, I love the Shaw Brothers movies, but there's like a groundedness and grittiness. Maybe you think about the fact that this movie came out in 1982, right? There was this whole wave of films in the early 80s where Hong Kong filmmakers were redefining what a Hong Kong movie was. And so you have the Hong Kong New Wave, and you have people like Choi Hawk and An Hui and people like that. And then you have, like Sammo Hung, Jackie Chan, who are coming from like the Peking opera background and stuff. But like 1982, you get Aces Go Places, Hui Brothers comedy, right? Hui Brothers, where it's like a Cantonese language comedy in Hong Kong about Hong Kong, and Carry On Pickpocket, and like that's 1982. Sammo is like taking the martial arts and the comedy out of the past and setting it in contemporary Hong Kong. In 1983, you get Project A, which is like this huge, almost like Hollywood Spielberg style blockbuster about Hong Kong that's not about like the ancient Chinese past. And for this movie very much is about China, right? But it's a new style of filmmaking. You're getting a new wave of films that are changing the definition of what Hong Kong cinema is, but also the ways in which these films are made and the lexicon that they use formally and within the narrative characters and stuff like that. And this movie feels very much like a part of this wave of films that was redefining this cinema in that moment in time. And I fucking love this, but like I cannot overemphasize how much I loved this movie. I talked about the commentary with Frank Drake and Ronnie Yu. It's just awesome and incredible. Like there's nothing better than having this movie's 90 minutes long. You get the director of this movie talking about the movie for 90 minutes. And then you get a bunch of archival interviews too. There's a Chow Yun-fat interview, which is 7 minutes and 16 seconds long. There's a Ronnie Yu interview, archival one separate from the commentary, that's 8 minutes and 11 seconds. There's two Beardy interviews. One is 7:43 and one is 9:19. And then you have Fat Samurai, who is amazing, Preston, right, on YouTube, who you'll know. Probably if you follow this channel, he has way more subs than I do. So if you're following this channel, I'm assuming you know who he is. It's him and Frank and Ronnie Yu, and that's 12 minutes and 38 seconds. And then there's a second Frank Chang commentary. Oh, and also worth mentioning, there's a freaking other cut of the movie on here, which is the export cut, which is only like about 2 minutes shorter, if I'm not mistaken. But that's on here too. So it's Postman Fights Back. This is, buy this. Like, I understand if you have a limited budget, you're not sure what you should be buying. I get it. And it's tough when so much stuff is coming out, and especially when the labels are starting to dig into, the bins and be like, what else is in here besides Jackie Chan? Or like, the Chow Yun-fat movies we can get, or the Sammo movies we can get, like John Woo. Like, what else can we find? What's cool? This movie has Chow Yun-fat in it. Maybe we could sell that. That's cool. It's Ronnie Yu is a bit of a name. Let's put that out. And I know it's hard to make these decisions, but if you have the money and you're on the fence about this, do not be on the fence about it. Buy it. This movie is freaking awesome, and I'm so happy with this release. That commentary track alone, I got so much joy out of that. Amazing performances, great story, such a fascinating film. My name is Will. You are watching Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society. As always, I thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.